Week one of the NFL is here on the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We are going to be here every single week through until the Super Bowl, giving our best bets on the week. We've already got one video on our YouTube channel taking us through the Baltimore Ravens Kansas City Chiefs game one on Thursday night. We're looking forward towards Sunday, though. Myself, Luke Elder, alongside my unfortunate shirt-wearing friend, Tom Collins.
Yeah, come on the Packers. Go Pack Go. I mean, what a season, Luke. I'm really looking forward to this. And we've already previewed the Thursday night game, as you say. Packers play on Friday night, so we're not even going to talk about that game. That wasn't in the Thursday preview, and it's not in this preview, focused on Sunday alone. So, I'm going to quietly hope that the Packers get off to a winning start when many people have probably already seen the result looking at this podcast now. But we go into the first Sunday, we get Red Zone, Scott Hanson, 7 hours of commercial-free football. Copyrighted, and I'm really looking forward to it. Plenty of bets on the way.
You were so aggressive when you said, come on, Packers.
I'm really looking forward to the season. I think we're actually going to do well again.
I get that we're an English podcast, but if Americans are listening to this, we're going to get bullied for that. Come on, Packers. Oh, but we really appreciate having you guys here with us. Let us know your best bets for week one of the NFL down in the comment section below. And if you are new here, welcome. Drop a subscribe as well. We are, at the time of recording, one subscriber away from 100. We would very much like to make it to 3 figures and then a little bit further than that. We also have our horse racing podcast as well, because we're not just football here on Turf and Touchdowns. We are horse racing as well. We've got a horse racing podcast live right now for you to go look at for Saturday night's action. But let's get into things just very quickly, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Packers or Eagles?
Heart or head?
The smart one.
Packers. Packers get off to a winning start, I think. I don't love that we're playing on Friday night, to be honest. And I also don't love that we've got the Eagles' first game of the year. For a fan, I'd like a winning start, and it's not necessarily guaranteed, but I hope we win.
That was so diplomatic. Right, let's get into our very best bets of the week. We've both labelled a few. I think I've got 5 or 6 to go through, mainly looking at player props. Tom, I will let you go first. Give me your best or first bet of the new season.
Yes, we're going to kick this off with the games between 6 p.m. UK time and 9:30 p.m. So the opening window and the second window, not the prime time game on Sunday. So just the opening window. I've got 2 bets in that period. Obviously, I'll probably have a couple more, but these are just the best plays. Firstly, I'm going to start with a slightly bigger price play. When you do these podcasts, obviously American football, you get short price favourites the majority of times. I'm going to start with a bit of a long shot here, and it's going to be that the Steelers are going to go to Atlanta and they're going to beat the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are the favourites. Steelers are around 6-4 money line. I think that's a very, very fair price. Now, neither of these teams are the most talented in the league by any stretch of the imagination. There is no question about that. Both teams have big holes on offense. The Falcons have huge holes on defense, I believe. The Steelers less so, but you can argue that the Falcons are better on offense than the Steelers are, especially because of that big quarterback debate going on in Pittsburgh right now. However, I like looking at trends. I know a game 10 years ago means absolutely nothing to a game today, but if you go back and look at the history, the head-to-head history of Pittsburgh v Atlanta, you will be very surprised to see that Pittsburgh have won 15 out of the 18 times they've matched up against the Falcons. They've only actually lost one of them, and that came in overtime in a high-scoring game where they actually should have won, but bottled it late in the fourth quarter. So these teams match up pretty well in terms of Pittsburgh towards Atlanta. And I think with some high-powered players on their offense, the likes of Russell Wilson, Jalen Warren, if he is playing, George Pickens, of course, and Pat Freiermuth, who's super consistent, I think Pittsburgh can put some points on the board. They also tend to prevail in scraps, while Atlanta tend to bottle it in close games, and I think that will go the way of Pittsburgh. So I'm very happy to bet Pittsburgh at 6-4. I think they're a pretty fair price, and despite not loving them for the year, moving forward, I think they might win in week 1. And I'll give you my second and my other selection in the early windows, and that's going to be a player prop. Now, I love playing the anytime touchdown market. If you watch the Chiefs against Ravens preview that we did, I put in an anytime touchdown player there. And I'm going to do it again. And it's going to be in the Bears game. And it's going to be DeAndre Swift. He's 5-4 anytime touchdown. Now, Tennessee are, and I'm going to say this word, crap on the road. They went 1-7 last year away from home, and that only win came in Miami. Don't ask how that happened. They won by a point, 28-27. They just hemorrhaged yards on the ground to running backs. Now, after their bye week last week, I think it was in week 5 or 6, then they went on the road several times. And I'm going to give you some stats. When they went on the road against running backs of opposition teams, Tennessee allowed 166 yards and 1 touchdown to Pittsburgh running backs, 128 yards and 2 touchdowns to Jacksonville running backs, 158 yards and 2 TDs to Miami, despite winning that game, and 111 yards to Texans running backs. They just hemorrhage ground, and I think DeAndre Swift is going to relish that. Swift's going to get a heavy workload. Obviously, Caleb Williams' first game in the NFL. He's going to wear it out a fair few times, but they're going to rely on their running back too. I think he's going to be a player in the passing game as well. So he's got kind of dual purpose chance of getting this touchdown. And I really like him as my favourite prop bet at 5-4.
I get it. I fully get it. I think DeAndre Swift is a fair fantasy play this year. I've been taking him in a few best ball leagues as a sort of very much depth player regards to running backs. Weirdly, me and Tom haven't, we've talked about our bets, but I've got 2 bets in the same 2 games as well. So I'll go in. We'll do Titans and Bears first. I'm going to allow you to have a DeAndre Swift touchdown because I'm nice, but not much more because I'm going to go for the unders in this game. I know we're excited about the NFL season going back. I know we want to see loads of points. Let's just pour a bit of water on this one. Let's just calm down because the Titans and Bears, I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. Under 45 points total for the game. That's 10-11. Caleb Williams, I think he's going to be absolutely brilliant. I think he's going to be an absolute superstar quarterback for years to come in the NFL. It's his debut. It's his rookie debut. In preseason, he threw the ball 20 times, 10 completions. He looked like a rookie. He's allowed to do that, and you fully expect that from him. There were some issues they had in preseason. We saw it in Hard Knocks. Their radio went down for a little bit. But at the end of the day, he might have a very good cast surrounding him. He is going to make mistakes. And the Tennessee defense, I think, could be quietly okay. L'Jarius Sneed has joined Tennessee. Jamal Adams has joined Tennessee. There are a few big names in there. And the Tennessee defense generally is okay regardless. Both defenses last year were middle of the pack. There was nothing outstanding really about either of them. Both quarterbacks can struggle as well. Will Levis I think he's going to be a very moderate quarterback this year. He might be in fantasy serviceable because he's got some good tools around him. Neither team have got a fantastic run game. We don't even know who the starter is for Tennessee in the run game. Tony Pollard or Tyjae Spears. Obviously, DeAndre Swift on the Bears side of things. I just think this is a game that's got written all over it from a viewing perspective. I'll take the under 45 points. And we'll cast our minds back to Tom's first selection. He's going in the Steelers-Falcons. I don't agree with him. I think the Falcons will win the game, but that's not my bet. My bet is for Bijan Robinson to score a touchdown any time, even money at the moment. I think that's a fantastic bet. Last year, he got 7 touchdowns, which we kind of forget about. One of them was, or a couple of them were through the air. Inside the 5-yard line last year, Tom, Bijan Robinson had 3 carries. How many of them did he score
on? 3.
You always ruin it. It's 2. He scored. He scored on 2 of them. Zach Robinson is now the OC. He's come over from LA. That scheme's going to be absolutely wonderful for Bijan Robinson. They've talked about using him in the same vein that they use Christian McCaffrey in over in San Francisco. He does that. My goodness, Bijan Robinson is going to be absolutely incredible this year. Raheem Morris has taken over as head coach. Arthur Smith has been banished to the other side. He's now offensive coordinator for the Steelers. And the Steelers last year, their defense was fine. It always is, but they allowed 13 touchdowns to running backs in total last year on the ground and through the air. I think Bijan's going to score week 1. I'm taking that even money. So my first 2 bets, Tom, unders on the Titans-Bears game, 45 points, and Bijan Robinson any time. Hit me with your next play.
Before I do that, no. I want to question something. Are you saying Falcons? I'm very much an Atlanta Falcons kind of guy. I'm not sure about Falcons. You said at the top of the show that maybe people are going to take the mick because I've said, come on, Packers. I think maybe people will take the mick out of you for saying Falcons.
I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes when I talk, I have no idea what I'm saying. It's just a little tidbit into Luke's mind. Wait until we get to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah,
that's gonna go.
Absolutely. I mean, my only selection left is in the primetime game. So if you've got others in the early
Okay.
kickoff, go
Yeah,
for it.
I've got one more in the early kickoff, and we are talking about the Seahawks game. I think the Seahawks are going to absolutely pulverize the Denver Broncos. I don't think the Seahawks are going to be a wonderful team this year. I think we'll be good. I think we'll be okay. But two bets, both on the Seahawks side of things. Jackson Smith and Jigba is a guy that I'm expecting big, big things from this year. I think he's going to hit the over 43 and a half yards receiving. Over that, 10 to 11 at the moment. 13 games last year, he exceeded over 43 and a half 7 times. He was used horrifically last year. His ADOT was one of the lowest in the leagues for one of a main receiver on a team. He hit 40 yards and 41 yards a couple of times, all while being on the field for 60 to 65% of the snaps. That's a sort of rough guide. Generally, he was in a 60% sort of line of percentage anyway. Ryan Grubb's come in, taken over from Shane Waldron, who was a terrible offensive coordinator. He's now in Chicago with Caleb Williams. But Ryan Grubb focuses a lot on the slot guy. I think he's going to be using Jackson Smith and Jigba, firstly, correctly, which is great, but also in a far better fashion than Shane Waldron used him last year. The amount of passes that Jackson Smith and Jigba was thrown behind the line of scrimmage last year was absolutely criminal. He's a very, very good receiver. He showed glimpses of it last year. I think he's being slept on a lot this year, and JSN, I think, is in for a big year. And also on the Denver side of things, their defense is not good, but they do have Patrick Surtain, who I'm a big, big fan of. I think he's going to be just mirroring wherever DK Metcalf goes. If DK Metcalf is somewhere, I think Pat Surtain's going to be on the other side. I think JSN's going to be left alone. Take him over 43 and a half. And we'll go on the running game as well. Ken Walker, again, I think is going to have a pretty good season for a later running back in fantasy drafts. But anytime touchdown for Ken Walker, he's 5 to 6. The Broncos last year allowed the third most rushing yards in the entirety of the season. Keep in mind, they allowed like 1,000 against Miami. So that is a little bit skewed. They were terrible in that game. But 11 games with 10 or more carries last year for Ken Walker. That brought about 9 touchdowns. Seattle should control the game pretty much from start to finish. And I think Walker is once again going to be the lead back by a fair way with Zach Charbonnet filling the backup role. That's been spoke about by Ryan Grubb. He also wants to use Ken Walker more in the passing game. If that happens, then Ken Walker could just be a very, very good running back this year, regards to fantasy and also betting. So take a look at the Seahawks. I think they're going to absolutely dominate against the Broncos in week 1. JSN over 43 and a half at 10 to 11, and Ken Walker anytime touchdown at 5 to 6. I will not, though, Tom, be saying that about Seahawks players every single week.
Well, I'm quite surprised. You do love to boost up the Seahawks. To be fair, they should be winning week 1, but we do know, judged by the last few years, when the Seahawks should be winning, they tend to not.
Do you remember what happened last time the Seahawks played the Broncos on week 1 at home?
I don't, no.
Russell Wilson was not a happy bunny. And,
When is it?
and bizarrely, Denver had a chance to try and win the game and decided to try and kick a field goal from like 66 yards or something instead of going a bit further down the field. But that's fine. It's Bo Nix's rookie debut.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting Bo Nix to be fantastic this year. He might do okay. He's not really been helped out in the receiving department. I think this is a Seattle romp, but we will move on to, is it the late night Sunday game?
Yeah, prime time on Sunday.
Rams Lions. Tom, who you got?
Waiting all day for a Sunday night. I cannot wait to hear that, by the way. That is the best part of NFL.
Who's doing it this year?
Oh,
Because it was Carrie Underwood. I think. Yeah. Did they move on from Carrie Underwood?
I don't want to say yes because I do enjoy Carrie's rendition. I have to admit.
Yeah, it is good. But either way, that's off radar. Give me some bets for late night Sunday.
Yeah, it's a very good game. Obviously, Rams, Lions, 2 top quality teams, or at least that's what we're expecting going into the season. Right now, the Lions are 3.5-point favourites on the line that I can see at home to beat LA. I think that could easily be 5.5, to be honest. I believe the Lions are going to be extremely good this year. They have the highest, in my opinion, one of the highest powered offenses, if not the highest powered offense in the National Football League. I'm very, very tempted to bet Lions minus 3.5 if that line sticks. But instead, I'm not going to put that up as my best bet of the game. I'm going to go slightly left field, but not too left field. Instead, looking at total points. Now, the line is set to 51 total points here. That is relatively high. You go back through the history of these matchups between the two, they don't often topple that. You go back through all of last year's scores, and they tended to be pretty low compared to what we were expecting on a yearly average. But I can definitely see this game finishing 34-21, maybe 34-28 here to Detroit. Either way, winning, covering the spread, but also covering the total points as well. Two high-powered offenses, as I say. Detroit have got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They've got Jared Goff, who's fantastic in a dome atmosphere. Jahmyr Gibbs, if he plays, he's questionable right now, but I think he's okay for week one. Sam Laporta, Jameson Williams should have a breakout year as well. So there is no qualms against the Lions offense. They're going to have just a really good season, and defense are going to struggle with them. But on the other side, LA have also got a pretty good offense. Puka Nacua stood out as one of the best wide receivers in the whole league last year. Cooper Kupp, he's not done just yet. They've got talent at tight end. They've got two good running backs, Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. I just can't see why these teams won't put up points. If you look back at the total stats last year, Detroit ranked third in total offensive yards and fifth in points per game. Rams ranked seventh in offensive yards and eighth in points per game. So they were right at the top end, and they've only strengthened. Neither has a stellar defense, so I don't see many times they're going to stop each other. And I think this could really become a shootout, going the way of Detroit at the end. So I'll take over 21 if it was 21, that'd be a great bet. Over 51 total points at 11-10. And I will say, in honor of Chris Collinsworth, I'm really looking forward to watching Jahmyr Gibbs this year. Here is a guy who's gonna be in the red zone and in the end zone on numerous occasions.
Do you see that slide in?
I did see that.
Hey, Tom.
Hello.
Do you know what that is?
Oh, no.
That's the sound of a shootout. We're going to have a lot of points coming in the Rams-Lions game. You've mentioned some of the offensive weapons there. I'm with two of them. We'll start on the Rams side of things. Cooper Kupp. I think he's going to be in line for a big year. This is the healthiest Cooper Kupp's been in a long, long time. Obviously, he started last season injured. We didn't know if we were going to see him for the year. We did. He came back. He was good. Not Cooper Kupp good, but he was good. Over 64.5 yards, it is the line for Cooper Kupp. I'm going to take that, 10-11 on the overs. Over 100 yards Cooper Kupp achieved in two of his last four regular season games. There are health concerns over Puka Nacua as well. Puka, he's dealing with an injury of his own. He looks to be ready for week one, but I wouldn't be surprised if Puka takes a bit more of a backseat in week one. And even so, I think Cooper Kupp could return to be wide receiver one for LA this year. And it's not as if LA have really got stronger in other receiving ranks. Tyler Higbee's still out hurt. They've got Colby Parkinson from Seattle. He was one of three tight ends in Seattle. He's just going to step in and be tight end one for the Rams. He might do okay. He's a good tight end, but is he really going to take targets away from Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp? I highly doubt it. Detroit, as Tom said, allowed the sixth most passing yards last season. This is going to be a shootout. Cooper Kupp's going to have a massive game. Start Cooper Kupp in fantasy. Draft Cooper Kupp in fantasy. Take him 64.5 yards. Take the over. And on the other side, loads of weapons on the Detroit side. Let's look at Jared Goff. Jared Goff has been a fantastic story in the NFL. He was a high draft pick. He went to the Rams, not a very good Rams team. He was then involved in the trade that sent Matt Stafford to LA, and Jared Goff has been absolutely brilliant, if not better than Matthew Stafford, just without the Super Bowl, but for Detroit. Over 264.5 yards. It's 10-11 currently. Now, that is high. That's not a low sort of bar for quarterback yardage, but last year he averaged 269.1 passing yards per game. One thing we know about Jared Goff, he's very good at home, and he's in particular very good at an indoor stadiums. Obviously, in Detroit, their home stadium is indoor. He averaged 280 yards at home, and a lot of the time he wasn't really needed for the back end of the game because Detroit were putting up tons of points and they were winning plenty of games. He was second in the passing yard division last year behind Tua. He threw for 277 yards and 287 yards at home in the playoffs. And Jameson Williams is joining now. So unlike the Rams offense, the Lions offense genuinely does look like getting better. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still there. Jahmyr Gibbs will be used plenty more. You've got Sam Laporta. And if Jameson Williams hits, he might do, he might not. He is very much sort of 50-50. But if he hits, Jared Goff could be absolutely fantastic this year. Over 264.5 at 10-11. I love Jared Goff for week one. I think he's going to do absolutely fantastically, but can't wait to watch the Rams Lions. That is all the bets for this week. I don't think you've got any more, have you?
No, I haven't. But just on your note there, and we've just basically both of us touched on it. Jared Goff inside a dome is extremely good. Have you seen the schedule for Detroit this year? They've got
Yeah.
15 dome games and only 3 outside. I mean, that is very favourable towards him, isn't it?
Jared Goff MVP?
I like Lamar, but I can see it.
I mean, Jared Goff is an outside chance for MVP. He could go absolutely bananas this year, regards to yards and touchdowns. But Tom, just rattle through your bets for us, and then I'll do the same, and then we'll flag up our best bets for the week.
Yeah, so in the early kickoffs, the 6 p.m. and the 9:30 p.m.s, I had 2 bets. The Pittsburgh Steelers money line to beat the Atlanta Falcons around 6-4. The second bet then is a player prop, which is DeAndre Swift to score an anytime touchdown for the Chicago Bears against the Tennessee Titans at 5-4. And then in the primetime game, just past 1 a.m. UK time, I like over 51 total points. That's around 11-10, maybe 10-11, depending on what when you see this podcast. But I think that's a good play.
I am going for Jackson Smith and Jigba to go over 43.5 yards receiving. That's the line at 10-11. Ken Walker in the same game, anytime touchdown, is at 5-6. Bijan Robinson at anytime touchdown in the Steelers at the Falcons. That's even money. Under 45 points in the Titans-Bears game. That's at 10-11 currently. Cooper Kupp over 64.5 yards in the Rams-Lions game. That's 10-11. Same price for Jared Goff to go over 264.5 yards in that very same game. Now, pressure time. What's your best bet of the lot?
Yeah, so this we're gonna name this play of the day, and I'm gonna keep a record of how we do with this, providing I don't go 0 from 1 in week 1. And my play of the day in week 1 is drum roll. DeAndre Swift at anytime touchdown for the Bears against the Tennessee Titans at 5-4.
Bit disappointing, isn't it, when a drum roll is followed by the words DeAndre Swift?
This is the only time I'm going to put the Chicago Bears up as my main bet. Obviously, Packers fan, don't like doing it, but I think this is a great play.
I'm going to go Ken Walker for my. Oh wait, sorry, drum roll. I'm going to go. I'm going to go Ken Walker anytime touchdown. I think he's booked in against the Broncos. Love it, 5-6. That's a great price. Wouldn't shock me if he got 2/3. I think Seattle are gonna roll Denver. So Ken Walker anytime touchdown. That's my play of the day. Enjoy the first Sunday of NFL action. Just a reminder, if you are watching this bright and early, you can look back on how we did on Thursday. I was so close to a fly going into my mouth then. Like, literally, it was just here. I don't know if you were able to see it on the recording, but it was here. I was like, oh no, I can't stop talking. It swerved away. It's still here. Right. We can look back on Thursday and how we did in the Baltimore Kansas City Chiefs game. And also, if you're a horse racing fan, go have a look at our Saturday preview in the US. That is live right now on our YouTube channel. But Tom, week 1 in the books. God, I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Same time, same place next week. Looking forward to it.
Can't wait. That is the Turf and Touchdowns podcast. We will be here every single week giving you our best bets on the NFL season. Make sure to subscribe if you're not, and we will see you in about a week's time. Until then, stay safe, look after other. Goodbye.